slow down, no. Can you feel it too? There ain't no stopping now. Feet off the ground, head to the sky. Yeah, wind by my side. You in my vision, directly we collide. You pull me in, I don't resist. Time seems to fly, but the clock doesn't tick. I crash into you, we both feel the hit. We both feel the way that our chemicals mix, and I wish that I just keep my eyes shut. Maybe this time will be enough. So I need the dark. Without you here, I wouldn't never see the stars. I'm headed for you. Put on the gas. I'm coming straight at you, no looking back. I'm here, I'm your statue. Your heart is a magnet, I'm coming at you. Girl, you're my target, I'm aiming at you. You're a comet, I'm trying to catch you. We can break any rule they ever taught you. Forget about anything they ever bought you. Cause me and you don't need a lot in this world to get by. Plus you know I got you, you pull me in. I don't resist, time seems to fly but the clock doesn't tick. I crash into you, we both feel the hit. We both feel the way that our chemicals mix. And I wish that if I just keep my eyes shut, maybe this time will be enough. So I need the dark. Without you here, I wouldn't never see the stars. I'm headed for you. Put on the gas. I'm coming straight at you, no looking back. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. You are my star. We are connected, misdirected to the high. Then we collide.
Just give everybody a heads up, the lobby has been created. We have most of Here Comes the Cobra already lined up, and it looks like We Make Bad Decisions are starting to file in. They have about 3 of them in right now, so we should be looking to get started about on time, and we'll be able to get the game underway and get straight into the draft. So stay tuned, and just looking at a couple minutes here while the last remaining players file in. As you guys can see, we have almost filled the lobby up here. We're waiting one last player for we make bad decisions, and then the game will get underway. So stay tuned. Actually, it looks like he might have just joined the channel, or the lobby. So we'll be getting started here very shortly. Alright, looks like both teams are ready to go, so I'm going to kill the music here and we will be getting underway. So for those of you just joining the channel, tonight we are going to have Here Comes the Cobra, also known as Cobra Boys, versus We Make Bad Decisions in the Week 4 matchup on the AD2L League stream. So I am Darmin, coming to you live from twitch.tv/DarminCast, and I am back after a 2-week vacation from streaming. Using the term vacation very loosely. The first week I was gone was actually dedicated to my day job, so I was out of town and unable to stream. And week 2 was to follow alongside the International 5. Gotta give the hometown favorites of Evil Geniuses the congratulations for having won their first international event. And I'm looking forward to seeing them come back in TI6, because if tradition holds true, the winner of each TI automatically gets a free invitation to next year's TI event. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to hold the team together for a full year and bring them back to the International and keep the same level of skill that they had throughout this year's tournament. They did fall the first time to CDEC, but they came back to beat him in the grand finales when it all counted. So congratulations to both teams, and I'm sure they'll be spending money hand over fist now that they are essentially millionaires for playing a game of Dota. I'm getting alerted to the fact that they're going to remake the lobby. There was a bit of an error. In how they set it up, so we're back into the lobby, and it should just take a couple minutes for them to regroup and restart the game. They had accidentally picked the wrong side to have the first pick, first ban. So after a brief remake, we'll be back to it. And my stream is apparently being infiltrated by toucans, but I do not have the chat sized appropriately, and so it just looks like a bunch of ASCII gibberish to me. A bunch of take my energy memes coming in. Always accepted. Apparently, it's not accepted for the caster, though. Alright, looks like everybody's back into the lobby. So I'm sure they'll get started here very quickly. Sorry about the delay, everyone. I should have grabbed a drink before this cast, but hey, c'est la vie. Drinking would help the toucans, dank memes, and kappas go down smoother. So we're back to We Make Bad Decisions versus Here Comes the Cobra, also known as Cobra Boys, as they get the draft underway. The first bans have changed slightly from the first half draft we had, but they're coming out pretty quick. We have Queen of Pain, Undying, Lesharok, and Bloodseeker. All very popular in the current meta, all very team fight oriented and everything else. I'm curious to see how the International 5 meta is going to trickle over into Amateur League Dota, and see if teams try to imitate the playstyles we saw in the main event of the International. Of course, there was I don't think there was a ton of deviation from popular meta throughout this year's International, especially compared to previous years, but everyone had a very distinct playstyle, as the announcers were discussing for the grand finale. CDEC Gaming liked to rotate to the safe lane very early under the guise of smoke.
5 seconds remaining.
And they did it so often and so early that even if teams were expecting it, it would still catch them off guard. But We Make Bad Decisions picking up a Darkseer, a very common pickup amongst the International, and similarly, Cobra Boys are picking up Storm Spirit and Bounty Hunter, two very popular heroes in the current meta. Bounty Hunter is a personal favorite of mine, as one of those fourth slot soft supports, if you will, who just kind of roam around, provide vision, and of course, track can never be underestimated, providing a giant pile of gold for Bounty Hunter himself, and speeding up the farm of the fellow cores on his team.
10 seconds remaining.
We have some Twitch chat recommendations for picks, saying pick Dragon Knight, ban Storm Spirit, but so far neither of those are going to come true. We have Storm Spirit in the game, and Dragon Knight has yet to be picked. The bans that have come out, though: Gyrocopter, Phantom Lancer, two of the strongest carries in the game right now, as well as Anti-Mage, who I believe had the highest gold per minute farm rate for the main event of the International under Silence play of Anti-Mage, and he broke the 910 gold per minute. And Dazzle also banned out by Here Comes the Cobra as one of the most popular support picks, and largely, I believe, due to his ability to toss Shallow Grave on heroes and keep them in the fight, sometimes indefinitely, but certainly long enough to have a substantial impact after they would have normally died. Twitch chat encouraging me to say, I love La Papa. So, here you are. I love La Papa. That's for you, Deep Thuggin. One of the heroes picked up by We Make Bad Decisions, Omni Knight. He'll likely be the hard support for their team. And to my knowledge, the only time he was picked up at the International was during the 10 vs 10 All-Star game, where Omni Knight's agonism... blah, blah, blah.
Witch Doctor.
Scepter. I'm just going to skip it.
Dire team pick.
I am going to be real thirsty. See? It's my lack of a drink. Not having a drink is making me incapable of saying the word agonism. Wow. I'm gonna go get a drink, see if that does help.
Ten seconds remaining. 5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
There you go. A little bit of water and a little bit of a brain reset, and I can now say Aghanim's Scepter. While I was gone, looks like Cobra Boys pick up their hard support in the form of a Witch Doctor.
Shadow Shaman.
Radiant team back.
But as I was saying, Omni Knight picked up in the All-Star game during the International. His Aghanim Scepter Ultimate saved a bunch of his teammates and the throne, which dipped below 100 HP on the side of the Radiant, who eventually came back to win the game.
5 seconds remaining. Dire team ban.
Whole bunch of energy being tossed around Twitch chat. Loving it. And the final ban coming out on the side of Cobra Boys is the Slark. I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not terribly afraid of a Slark. I think he's a little bit
Dire team pick.
overhyped right now. But if you don't want to play against him, you don't want to play him. So regardless, he's banned out. He won't be seeing the light of day in this matchup. For their last pick, here comes the Cobra, pick up a Shadow Fiend. So I'm curious to see who they're going to put in the safe lane between the two. I suspect Shadow Fiend will be mid, but of course Storm Spirit plays a very viable mid.
5 seconds remaining. Reserve time.
And we're eating into the reserve time here on the side of we make bad decisions in light of that final pickup, because I don't know if it was fully expected. I know I certainly didn't expect it myself. It's a bit unorthodox, but that's a good way to be. You want to keep your opponents guessing. And pulling up some quick statistics here, it looks like Storm Spirit plays mid 86.5% of the time. So clearly he's a very common mid player. But in this case, I'd be shocked to see anybody but Shadow Fiend take over that mid lane. Now as we get into the game, I will throw up the Darmin branded overlays. And we will get underway. So this is going to be game 1 in a 2-game series between We Make Bad Decisions and Cobra Boys. Going through team introductions here, we have Casey playing the Storm Spirit. Whoa, jumped to a tower for some reason. We have Robin Socks playing the Bounty Hunter. And looks like he's going to be heading up to the enemy jungle here. Shadow Fiend heading to the bottom rune, and he is played by Loose Puss. Strutting along. And the default Shadow Fiend set needs to get some of those sexy new immortals. Start winning those style points. Witch Doctor, rocking an immortal himself, is going to be played by Cinex. And I'm going to jump out of the character screen here for just a moment, as it looks like there is going to be a bit of a fight and scramble of the top rune, with Tusker rolling into Papa's Witch Doctor, and the Witch Doctor cask is tossed into the team. And even though it's only 5 versus 4, it looks like We Make Bad Decisions are going to retreat and just take the little bit of damage that they suffered and call it a day. So the final introduction for Here Comes the Cobra is Wayne's World, playing the Tusker, and he is going to be the obvious candidate for the off lane on the side of Here Comes the Cobra. Jumping over to We Make Bad Decisions, you have Kip playing the Omni Knight, and coming up to harass Tusker out of lane here a little bit, doing a little dance with him. The off lane for We Make Bad Decisions is being played by Mint on the Darkseer. The hard carry role is going to be picked up by Dirty, playing the Phantom Assassin. Seen here trying to rack up those last hits under the protection of her 2 supports, who are both just trying to keep that Tusker at bay a little bit. Speaking of those supports, here's the other protecting the Phantom Assassin. Broden 1616 playing the Shadow Shaman in the safe lane. And in the mid lane, going up against Storm Spirit, we have Papa. And as I finished up those introductions, it looks like we did have the first blood in the top lane, with Bounty Hunter falling to the combined efforts of everybody in the top lane on the side of We Make Bad Decisions. And between the heal bomb, the blinking PA, and the control coming out from Shadow Shaman, who's put 2 points into his control abilities, it's going to be a fair amount. But Robin Sox has respawned, regenerated, and rotated himself to the middle lane alongside KC, where I'm sure he's hoping to recover from his start a little bit and see if he can harass the silencer. He throws a hit on him. KC, with his overcharge, is going to slow him down, and that's going to be enough. Between that and the recent level 2 level from Robin Sox, which allowed him to get the Shuriken and toss it into silencer for the killing blow. PA getting rolled on by Tusker. Sorry about the pause there, guys. I was reading Twitch chat, and it seems to be an eclectic combination of screams, laughs, calling people rude, and of course the also pleasant smack talk that exists in Dota, where they're calling out one another's draft a little bit. But it's all in the game. Kip has rotated to the middle lane, where he is going to be dewarding for Papa. And then looks like he's not going to be sticking around. He's going to be rotating back top. But this ward is going to catch out the rotation of Robin Sox, who should have noticed or should have been alerted by Storm Spirit that that ward had been dropped, because it was used to kill the Observer ward that the Dire had placed there. But he's still looking to stick around. He wants to go in on Papa again. And KC rotates in with an invisibility from the rune in the bot lane. And we'll have a rotation by Omni Knight here, but it's going to be a little bit too late. Silencer does get the counter kill on Bounty Hunter, but he falls. So that's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. And the lane's going to be taken over by Kip here for a little bit, as he starts to get a couple more levels. Slightly faster rotation from him might have been able to save the silencer, but I think he was just standing a little bit too aggressively, coming too far forward in the tower, knowing that the bounty hunter was there to spot him out. We make bad decisions, doing an excellent job of buying these early sentry wards that are not only starving out the vision for the dire or the radiant side, but also keeping a close eye on the bounty hunter, who seems to have been spending most of his time in these top and middle lanes. And the supports for We Make Bad Decisions have acknowledged that by warding up both of those locations. They try to counter ward themselves in the top lane. They drop the first back here, and it's not able to spot out the enemy ward, but placing a second one a little bit further up does allow them to kill the opposing sentry ward. Now this is going to open up this top lane for a bit more harassment by Robin Socks. Getting some GG Papa Sucks in the Twitch chat to follow up my I love Papa. So yeah, I have a little bit of love, a little bit of hate. Silencer, let's see what you do for the team, as that is all that matters in Dota. Love them or hate them, if you have the plays in the game, you'll be able to silence all the haters and embrace all the lovers, I guess.
Dire's structures are fortified.
Bottom lane sitting pretty quiet, and even though we have Mint playing the Darkseer, it seems like every time I look down at the lane, it's pushed into the Dire side of the map. The jungle has been stacked up quite a bit here by Sonics and Loose Pus. It looks like Sonics did body block the creep pull that Shadow Fiend had started, so he won't get another stack out of it, but there's 3-4 stacks there already, so he'll clean that up, get another surge of gold, and be on his way. It also puts him at 29 necromancy recharges as he continues to build up here, as his necromastery skilled all the way to 4 points, so he can get up to 36 charges on it. And after clearing up this wave, that's where he'll be. So he'll be capped out on his damage.
Denied.
Bountiful.
Cobra Boys making excellent use of these runes. It seems like they've had rune control for the majority of the game. Sonic's rotating from the safe lane to the mid lane here, but he's going to be spotted out by the enemy observer ward, and Broden 1616's in position as well. But we kind of have a pincher move coming here between Sonics, who's retreated back to the middle lane, and Robin Socks. KC hitting level 6, zips in on Papa, and with Robin Socks there to open up with the Shuriken toss, it's going to be enough damage to bring him down, and they go after Broden, who tried to rotate up to save his ally, but there was no saving him. The burst damage was just too great from the side of Cobra Boys, and so they actually dropped not only the core Papa, but the backup who was intending to save his life on Broden. So that's a 2-for-0 trade going the way of Cobra Boys. Meanwhile, I missed another kill, and it looks like... no, I did not. That was the 1-for-1 death that got Bounty Hunter, I believe. The Shadow Fiend and Witch Doctor applying a little bit more pressure to this bottom lane, but Mint diving back behind his tower. He still had Surge available, so he wasn't in any true danger. And Broden since respawned and rotated bot as well. But some aggression on top. You have Tusker rolling in, and Broden rotating to the top with a town portal scroll. the ice shards thrown and track thrown on PA, and it looks like Wayne's World is going to be able to get away. Durden trying to chase after him with his blink strike, doing a little bit of damage but not quite enough to catch him out. They do, however, catch out Robin Sox, who had stuck around a little bit too deeply and a little bit too long and got spotted out by the rotation of Papa. And immediately the Radiant side decide to pop a smoke and dive further into Radiant territory. They do spot out Storm Spirit, but he grabs an invisibility rune and he'll just waddle away. Loose Bus continuing to farm here. We'll take a quick look at the last hits denies, and he is ahead by a huge margin right now. Part of that coming compliments of the stacks that had been built up in this camp here, and he's got another one being built next to it as well. Sonic's continuing to hang out in this jungle, trying to stack up the creeps, missing that one a little bit, but they do ping out the stacked camp, notifying PA that it's ready for him. Darkseer, under aggression in this bottom lane, was able to deny the tower, so that'll be some extra coins going the way of the Radiant team if they're sitting on that quest still. And I catch the last seconds here of the kill against Wayne's World, where Broden was able to get the shackles off on him with Dirty doing the damage, doing that dirty damage on PA.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Robin Sox rotating up, throwing out a track on both the safe lane players on the Dire side, but I think that'll be used mostly just for extra vision, not as an aggressive move at all, as he does not currently have any support. And with Omni rotating in, it'll be spotted out by that track, so he shouldn't get too aggressive here, knowing that there are at least 3 Dire heroes in the lane. But you have a little bit of rotation from Radiant side to the top lane, and the Dire, meanwhile, are rotating into the jungle to see if they can spot out this Shadow Fiend, who I now believe they are suspecting is doing those jungles. And the 3 heroes in the safe lane are going to be able to drop the hard carry from We Make Bad Decisions and the Omni Knight, with Casey having enough mana and enough bottle to zip around. He did bottle up the regen rune before he came up here, so that's what allowed him to have enough mana to cast that first zip from about his first tower into the secret shop and catch PA slightly out of position. With those 2 kills, they're going to look to pressure this tier 1 tower and take the second tower of the game. Meanwhile, Shadow Fiend, with his very high net worth, is going to drop the middle tower before Dirty has a chance to rotate in. He throws out a dagger to try to slow him down, see if they can catch him out, but the damage was already done, the tower had already fallen, and that's going to be Tower 2 and likely Tower 3 to fall on the Dire side. But heavy rotations coming in from both the supports. Broden drops his ultimate, but he's likely going to fall here with the 3 heroes having enough damage. They do get a return kill on the Bounty Hunter. Witch Doctor drops his ult to catch out Omni Knight, and they will get him as well with the Wayne's World Tusker Snowball into PA. Storm is caught slightly behind the ice shards, but he'll zip ahead, throw out that last overload, and drop PA. So it is a 3-for-1 trade. It also expended the ultimate of Shadow Shaman to defend that. They were able to get the defense, but at this point I think it might not have been worth it. Instead of fighting out here in this part of the map, I think they should have fought back here behind the allied tower and had that additional coverage and the additional teleport point for any allies who could have joined them in the fight. And Tusker, Shadow Shaman trying to make a go of it again as they roll on to Dirty, but the Silencer ultimate is popped, silencing the Radiant team for a little while. Dirty blinks back to Kip, who's able to throw his magic shield on him, but there's enough Here Comes the Cobra players in the vicinity to continue the aggression, and right now it looks like all 5 of them are there. They're going to re-engage on Dirty, also dropping the Shadow Shaman. Silencer in the woods is going to be picked off as well, and that's a 4-for-0 fight, with 3 of those kills going the way of the Bounty Hunter, who was tossing tracks and glaives around. So that fight right there is going to be worth 3K in favor of the Radiant side, and with yet another tower they're going to further their gold lead. I don't believe the chart has updated. Oh yep, it's got the tower on there, so it looks like they're sitting right at around 10K, and if they break this tower it'll be even more. All 5 heroes still grouped up here. Wayne's World sitting at half health, but everyone else looking pretty healthy, have most of their mana. The Dire team rotating in with full health, full mana after that nearly team wipe, and they're going to see if they can catch out some of these players with a bit too much aggression. Kip, manning the front lines for his team as a support, is going to pay with his life, and as such he doesn't have time to react to the pressure being put on his hard carry, who also dies in the mix. They do grapple the Shadow Fiend down in between the Shackle and the Snake Wards. They'll bring him down, so it's not a complete loss for them. They do drop the very high value target Shadow Fiend, and that alone is going to be worth even though it was a 3-for-1 loss, the Dire team still coming out ahead from the net worth there. Silence going on to Papa as he retreats back to the safety of his allies, and Robin Socks and KC are just continuing to apply pressure. It's one thing I really like about the Storm Spirit, not only in this meta, but one of the reasons he's been popular for a long time, is he is able to apply a lot of aggression. And you combine that with a Bounty Hunter who roams around and provides you additional vision, track vision, and track gold, and you got yourself a pretty deadly and potent combo, even if allies are ducking, or not allies, but enemies are ducking into woods and under towers. Storm Spirit's still very likely to see him if track has been applied, and he'll be able to zip in, grab people out, and explode them. I mean, if you look at Silencer here, he's sitting at 800 life. You have less than 800 life on the PA. Quite likely your most, your tankiest target on Darkseer, who's rocking 2 headdresses right now. Omni Knight sitting on about 800 himself, and Shadow Shaman coming in second on his team's health meter with 900 health. 900 health is 8 to 900 health is nothing for Storm Spirit to cut through very quickly, as it looks like he did kind of go that 414 build, likely starting 404.
Oh, invisibility.
With the Overload and Static Remnant, so he can just ball lightning in, drop a Remnant, Overload, and explode someone. Kip needs to be a little bit careful here, as he's constantly acting as the front lines for his team. I know they don't have anyone with a ton of health quite yet, but throwing your Omni Knight in your lead position there is going to prevent him from being able to cast his Repel and Purification, his heal, onto some of the targets that really will need it, like your PA. And if he's exploded too quick, or he's caught out by Storm who can silence him, he'll never even get off that Guardian Angel. So I think the ultimates on We Make Bad Decisions are going to be what make or break this game for them. If they have some extremely clutch silences and some very critical ultimates from the Omni Knight, they'll be able to take these team fights, which right now they're losing every time they go in. But it's going to be an uphill battle. Both Shadow Fiend and Storm Spirit are sitting at about twice the net worth of Dirty, who's trying to find some farm here, continuing to sit in the safe lane under the protection of multiple supports, but it's not always enough. It looks like he's continuing to trail, obviously, the top two for Cobra Boys, but losing traction faster and faster. Just a few moments go by, and we're sitting at a 12k lead for Here Comes the Cobra. And between that tower, the Shadow Shaman kill, and they might be able to pick up a Darkseer. Dirty blinks in, but he's been kind of left out by himself. The Omni Knight sitting in the background is able to get his ultimate off this time, and the entirety of the We Make Bad Decisions team surge forward to see if they can take a team fight under the Silencer ult. But here comes the Cobra Pop. There are BKBs and track golds across multiple targets. They turn, they face, and they just completely wipe We Make Bad Decisions. The Requiem of Souls from Shadow Fiend hitting multiple targets and dropping, and not only doing a significant amount of damage, but also reducing the damage output of the Dire team. So everyone on Here Comes the Cobra is sitting pretty healthy. Half health and above. The Witch Doctor did go down, but I mean, he's sitting at the lowest net value or net worth of his team, and so he doesn't care, I'm sure. He'll trade his life for the entirety of the opposing team any day of the week. That Aegis of the Immortal sitting on the ground for quite a while, but nobody in position from Bad Decisions to make the leap and try for the steal. I think even if they did, they'd be eliminated quickly.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
KC finding himself yet another invisibility rune, and he'll rotate deep into enemy territory, but he's pinged out by Silencer, who did spot him with their sentry ward here. So Bad Decisions should be aware of this, and they're doing the right thing in staying in their base and staying in a very defensive position. Papa comes out and sees if he can bait the Storm Spirit into going on him, knowing his allies are right behind him, but Casey rotates to the bottom lane, hits a little bit more farm, and then retreats back. So it looks like the game's slowed down here a little bit. We're sitting on a kill total of 21-8 in favor of Cobra Boys, and they've retreated back to the jungle. They're picking off some stacks. They're getting that net worth lead even higher. So with the last tower in the bottom lane and the team fight that happened kind of around the secret shop and the ancients on the Dire side of the map, along with the Roshan, they're going up and up and up, approaching the 20k mark here at the 23-minute mark. And anytime you're generating 1,000 net worth lead per minute against your opponent, you're doing something right. So we're going to see them try to use this aggression and use this gold advantage they have to get a pick off under the guise of smoke, and then they'll likely push for the high ground with the pick off and the Aegis in tow. They find Kip as he goes up to ward, throw out the track, drop him immediately. Shadow Shaman just explodes in the crossfire, and they're trying to pick off Dirty and Darkseer, but there's a little bit of split DPS going off, but with Robinsock and KC beating on the PA, it's going to be enough damage between that, the track, and the Shuriken to drop them. And so it's going to be a 3-0. And it looks like the Dire team is pinging out the top tower saying, hey, they're probably going to be here. And it looks like That's exactly what Cobra Boys are going to do,
Under attack.
but I don't see Bad Decisions being able to mount a defense in time to save this tower.
Dire's top tower is under attack. Dire's structures are fortified. Dire's
And
top
as the bulk of the
tower
team
is
take the
falling.
top tower, Loose Pus on the Shadow Fiend take mid, and that is going to be it for the outer towers of Bad Decisions, who are now facing quite the uphill battle as it's 20k and climbing, favoring the Radiant side. Cask bouncing around on some of these allies in the backgrounds, and Casey uses it as an opportunity to jump in. Between him and Bounty Hunter, they are able to drop the Omni Knight. There's tracks on nearly every target on the Dire side. Again, Shadow Shaman just exploding in the crossfires. And after they take out a couple of those supports, specifically the Omni Knight, they turn their focus to the hard carry. And following that repeat 3-for-0 trade, they're going to call GG, and that is going to be game 1 going the way of Cobra Boys with a very impressive start. I would not be surprised to see Storm Spirit banned out in this next game, as it looked like Bad Decisions did struggle with that quite a bit. Storm Spirit showing an impressive 11-0 and 11, so he was at 22 of his team's fights, and I didn't quite check to see who had the highest net worth at the end of the game there between Shadow Fiend and Storm Spirit, but both of them having a very solid showing, and it looks like Shadow Fiend would have had a little bit higher as he has a higher gold per minute, but both of them impressively farming the map in their respective ways. Shadow Fiend capturing up a ton of last hits, Storm Spirit obviously getting a lot of last hits on heroes, which is just as valuable. And after doing so, he was able to rotate around the map and pretty much terrorize Bad Decisions. So that's game 1 going the way of Cobra Boys. We will take a brief 2 to 3 minute break here, I suspect, and be back for game 2 in this 4th week matchup between Cobra Boys and We Make Bad Decisions. Stay tuned. Looks like the teams are taking a short restroom break, so as soon as they're back, they'll kick off the game and we'll get under Draft 2. Looks like both teams are back and ready to go, so we'll be getting the game started here. So we are getting set for game 2 between We Make Bad Decisions and Here Comes the Cobra, also known as Cobra Boys. We'll be keeping an eye out. Oh, let me drop the overlay here. We'll be keeping an eye out to see if any adjustments are made to this first round ban phase of either team. And it looks like they are. So as predicted, Storm Spirits immediately banned out by We Make Bad Decisions. They did not like having to deal with Casey's performance last game, going 11-0 and 11 and having a massive impact, being able to dive pretty much as he wanted around the map and was able to get kills every time he did.
Dire team pick.
Cobra Boys banning out the Bounty Hunter this game, so they're not going to have that additional vision, and picking up a Darkseer for themselves. Darkseer, the last game, seemed to have a bit of a challenge in his lane going up against the Shadow Fiend, who was placed in a safe lane on the Radiant side of the map, which is a bit unorthodox, and as I mentioned, I had suspected he would be in the middle lane with the Storm Spirit going to the safe lane, but Casey and Loose Pus had different ideas, and they switched it up, putting Storm Spirit mid and Shadow Fiend bot, and it worked out very well for them. Bad Decisions not showing anything too telling here at the start of their draft, picking up their two, I'm going to assume their supports, because playing them as cores would be crazy, but Cobra Boys picking up a support of their own on Winter Wyvern and banning out the Silencer, which was a bit of a nuisance to them in game 1. It didn't seem to break the game open at all, but it did slow down their aggression, which they don't have as aggressive heroes this time, not having the Tusker or the Storm Spirit yet, but we'll see what they draft here in the second and third pick phases. We Make Bad Decisions, taking their time with this ban a little bit more, and giving a lot of respect to Cobra Boys here, banning out the two strongest cores from the game in the last round, getting rid of both the Shadow Fiend and the Storm Spirit. For their pick, Bad Decisions picks up the Slark, which, again, I'm not a huge fan of, but if he is able to get a lot of protected farm. He can be a bit of a threat. I just don't think he carries nearly as hard as, say, an anti-mage who's banned out, but even like a Core Naga or a Phantom Lancer, who they do pick up as their second pick in the second pick phase. But Cobra Boys are picking their heroes incredibly quick. They're banning their heroes incredibly quick. So I suspect they're coming in here with a game plan, and it doesn't even matter what Bad Decisions is picking for themselves. Cobra Boys are saying, hey, this is our lineup. This is what we're going to play. And we're just going to see if Bad Decisions can stop it. Which in game 1, they were completely unprepared to do so. So we'll see if that confidence translates into a second straight win for them in this second matchup in this best of 2 series for week 4 of the AD2L League. We make Bad Decisions suspecting that the Lina is going to be played as a core, so they ban out the Earthshaker to drop another one of the popular support players out of the mix, but Lina is one of those flexible heroes who can be played as support or a core. And it doesn't really matter. She can have a significant impact either way because of that light strike array and her ultimate, which does up to 1,000 damage by itself, just leveled up to the 3rd level. And Lina is a hero who almost always goes Aghanim's Scepter. Sometimes not if she's playing that support role, but it always helps, especially against strong BKB heroes. And I think Lina's a great pickup against Slark, because as Slark pops his ultimate and he starts dancing around in the shadows and he's invisible to the point where gems and sentry wards aren't able to catch him out, you can throw the Light Strike Array down on the ground and negate a lot of the time that Slark is untouchable. When he comes out of that shadow form, that's when Lina explodes him with her ultimate. So Bad Decisions taking a little bit longer here with their last pick, and then it'll be tossed over to Cobra Boys, who I imagine are sitting there hovering over their last hero, ready to go. Cobra Boys did ban out the Viper, so they're not looking to go up against him in the middle lane, but we're still not sure who Cobra is going to put in the middle lane. We're down to 5 seconds here for Bad Decisions, and they pick up a Bristleback. And yep, it jumps back over to Cobra Boys, and they immediately pick up the Gyrocopter, who made it through the entire draft without being picked up. Not something you see too often, and a lot of AoE damage coming out from kind of both sides here. I would say that Cobra Boys have a bit more of a teamfight and AoE centric lineup here, between the Darkseer Vacuum into a Winter's Curse into Flak Cannon, Rocket Barrage, and all the Sleight of Fist, and pretty much all of Lina's base spells. But going through introductions here, we have Kip playing the Disruptor, rocking the sexy back. Presumably playing the offlane here, we will have Bristleback rocking an Immortal of his own, being played by Mint. They're all grouping up here, making it hard to spot out individual heroes. Dirty, again playing the hard carry for the side of Bad Decisions, and rotating into the bottom room position here, along with the rest of his team. Playing Witch Doctor, we got Broden 1616, rocking the Monkey and the Monkey Casks. Meanwhile, Slark, hiding out in the Roche Pit with his other core brothers, is going to be played by Papa. And the Slark is rocking the pretty sexy Barb of Scotty. With 47 kills on it, he'll be looking to see if he can increase that number. Darkseer on the other side of the map, being representing Cobra Boys, going to be played by Robin Socks. Lena rotating up to the top lane, so it looks like she is going to be a support Lena. Is going to be played by Wayne's World. Sitting in the middle lane, we have KC playing the Ember Spirit. Going up against Slark. Papa playing Slark here. So it's going to be two melees in the middle lane. In the top lane, farming it up. Going to have Loose Pus trying to put on a similar farming performance on the gyrocopter that he was able to accomplish with Shadow Fiend. And then, last but not least, the support Winter Wyvern being played by Sonics. And his complete lack of cosmetic items. Please fix Ice Frog. Looks like he's going to be stacking up the neutral camps here to begin the match. So, with introductions done, going to toss on the overlay and get into it. Looks like both supports already stacking up camps, the easy camp and the side camp here. Need to be careful that this isn't used by bad decisions to kind of pull the creep wave and force the aggression under the Radiant Tower, which would make it a little bit harder for Loose Pus to get farm. But so far, he's keeping pace with his performance last game and nearly doubling the next strongest player. More than doubling the PL in the opposing safe lane. So, a good start for him. Dirty taking a bit of Ion Shell damage here from the Darkseer. And this is going to be one of the disadvantages. Last game, Darkseer was going up against a ranged carry in the form of Shadow Fiend.
Just what the doctor ordered.
And this time, Darkseer is going to have the advantage that anytime Dirty wants to get a last hit, he's going to have to go into the melee range or expend mana like he did there. And even still, he's just eating that Ion Shell damage, and it's not friendly. It hurts. Disruptor rotating top to kind of help Mint out with some of his farms, see if he can get a few last hits here going into the tri-lane of Cobra Boys. Sonic's grabbing the double damage rune top just to prevent Slark from getting it, presumably, and pulling his camp to pull the creep equilibrium back in his favor. You have your first bit of aggression coming out from bad decisions. Maledict, Cask, and Leap are all expended on Casey. They've done quite a bit of damage, and Maledict is going to tick. Casey's trying to bottle up, and it'll be enough to save him. So between the bottle and the tangos, he's going to be able to regenerate. It's used up pretty much all of his bottle. But it was a pretty strong execution from bad decisions. They just didn't quite have the damage to bring him down there. So at 3.5 minutes in, we're still sitting at 0-0 with neither team securing first blood for themselves. But Sonics is going to pop his fly form, and they're going to dive after Kip, and Loose Pus's Rocket Barrage, along with some Lena spam there, is going to be able to capture first blood and secure a little bit of gold for the Radiant, or excuse me, for the Dire side. Wayne's World grabbing that last thing with Dragon Slave, it looked like. Robin Sox needs to be a little bit careful here. He's spamming out the Ion Shells, but he's doing so with a Soul Ring, which is, you know, dipping into his life pool a little bit. So he's popping some of the healing salves and regen to make sure he doesn't get into a dangerous situation. The two supports on Cobra Boys smoking up, rotating in, seeing if they can get a kill mid, but they're a little bit late to the party. The Radiant team had already engaged, but with the strong Flame Guard on KC and the supports being in just a good enough position to turn the fight, the Dire side are able to swing that from what looked like a certain kill for KC to a 2-for-0 exchange favoring Cobra boys. So excellent rotations here, the 4 or 5 minute mark. Wayne's World hitting that Witch Doctor with the LSA, stopping any of his aggression and doing a decent chunk of damage to him as well. In case he doesn't even need to leave the lane, he just goes back to farming. He's level 6 now, so he tosses back a safety remnant, as he has been getting a fair amount of aggression coming his way from the Witch Doctor and Slark combo. Broden getting into position, seeing if he can wrap behind Robin Socks here, but Wayne's World is also in position to counter any possible aggression, so we also have Sonics rotating here. So in 2 minutes you're going to have the 2 supports from Cobra Boys showing themselves and having a presence in all 3 lanes, and it's fairly well timed too. Sonics drops in a sentry ward, and they are going to catch out the last seconds of the observer ward, and they're able to drop it for 50 gold, but that ward had spent its entire life, and so they're not going to lose much in terms of map control or map vision for it. Robin Sucks coming in, poking and harassing Broden a little bit, but Phantom Lancer throws out a lance, and Robin Sucks is forced to sprint away.
Thanks.
And I missed that there. It looks like Papa, realizing that he's going to struggle to get a kill against that Ember Spirit, who's more or less won the laning phase for himself, rotates to the top lane, and they are able to catch out a Gyrocopter who had pushed a little bit too far forward and didn't have the supports with him this time, as they were all sitting in the bottom lane, positioning to see if they could make something happen, or at the very least protect this Robin Socks as he continues to farm and apply pressure to the Phantom Lancer, who's continuing to fall behind the farm of Cobra Boys. Now Wayne's World, realizing that that Slark is a bit of a threat to his hard carry, is going to get in position, just kind of stay within arm's reach of the Gyrocopter. It looks like he's going to rotate a little bit here to stack up one of these creep camps. Pulls it into the lane.
Missing bottom.
And there's the respawn.
Missing bottom.
Winter grabbing haste. And again, it looks like Here Comes the Cobra are having an easy time controlling, if not one, at least sometimes both of the runes on the map. And Casey's continuously refilling this bottle, popping his flame guard to help him with the farm, and he's just able to sit in lane, hasn't left the lane. Kip doing a little dewarding of his own in the bottom lane here. They toss out a sentry, but some aggression coming out from KC, and he just explodes the Disruptor with one remnant and one sleight of fist. He's able to kill him, even though he did get glimpsed. So that's a 1-for-0 trade, dropping the Disruptor in a blink of an eye. And the ward does get taken care of in the bottom lane here, and so it looks like, yeah, Dire team have no wards on the map currently, with the Radiant team taking over control of their jungle again, with sentries and observer wards, and throwing down some sentries in this bottom room position. So hopefully that'll allow them to gain a little bit of control over the runes and counteract what Casey's been able to do with them. Wayne's World buying up a healing salve and applying it to loose pus to allow him to stick around in lane even longer. He's got 10 charges on the magic wand. Mint coming in here, applying a little aggression. Wayne's World jukes the LSA a little bit just to show that he's ready, she's ready to counter. KC getting ready to go on this Broden, it looks like, sitting with invisibility, and the two supports rotate in. But Broden and Kip playing it a bit defensively right now, as they should. KC has had another very strong presence in this game for the first 10 minutes of the game, being very well supported by his allies. Loose Pus getting into a bit of a skirmish here in the top lane, but between the support of Sonics and Robin Socks, he is able to survive and actually turn the fight in his favor, dropping the Slark. It looks like Sonics did misplay the Cold Embrace a little bit. I assume he had tried to cast it on Loose Pus, but missed it and self-cast it. So Loose Pus is going to fall back to the tower, heal up a bit. And now the pressure is going to come out against this tier 1 tower.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
This bottom lane, meanwhile, is just an action-packed creep versus creep brawl, as nobody's interested in getting the farm down here. And your first tier 1 tower of the game is claimed by Lena.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
Pop-up Roden and Mint looking to see if they can turn this a bit and catch someone out if they lingered, but between Surge and the protection of LSA and Cold Embrace, they're going to be able to escape safely. KC continuing to find runes throughout the game. Grabs himself an illusion rune, probably not his favorite, but it refills his bottle, so I'm sure he doesn't mind too much. Dirty pinging out the middle lane, and Witch Doctor pinging out KC as well. So KC looks to put a little pressure here in the mid lane, tossing back a Shadow Remnant if he needs it. He's eating a little bit of damage here from the Phantom Lancer, but nothing that's going to force him to jump. The Dire side, Cobra boys, de-ward the Sentry Ward in this bot lane here, but both teams kind of adjusting where they're warding throughout the game in response to the de-warding actions of one another and the needs of their team. So you got observers and sentries coming out at regular intervals from both support squads here. Here comes the Cobra making a decent rotation to the mid lane, seeing if they can pressure this second tier 2 tower. It looks like mid lane is going to be their second choice. With Sonics having free reign in this bottom lane, which until now has been completely open for anyone to show up and farm. So he's going to take advantage of this time, and he's a little bit nervous, but it's all his. It's all you can last hit buffet for a Winter Wyvern, and hopefully that'll give him enough experience to hit level 6 where he'll be able to have an even greater impact to these team fight scenarios. Ember Spirit, 2 minutes later, grabbing another rune for himself, this time a bounty rune, uses it, refills his bottle, and he's back to full health, full mana. So this fight a little less bloody than game 1 between these two teams, but right now it looks like Gyrocopter, Wayne's World, Casey all just camping out this middle lane and slow sieging it. They're pinging out the tower, they want to push it, and it looks like Bad Decisions are going to let them have it as they rotate away. They've rotated several players to the bottom lane. They're going to get this easy farm, but do so at the expense of their middle tier 1 tower. So
Dire structures are fortified.
Dire towers, on the other hand, are still looking fairly strong. Middle and top not having taken much damage, and the bottom tower not having got hit once yet. So Bad Decisions needs to be mindful of where they're at in terms of towers and make sure that Cobra Boys don't get so aggressive that it strangles the farm of the entire core base of Bad Decisions. Dirty's going to need his items here. He picks up the Blade of Alacrity. I suspect that'll be turned into a Diffusal Blade, but obviously Manta's a possibility. Less likely without any true silence carries or any silencers or people who typically pick up orchids. You could of course get one on Alina, but that's going to be super far away as she's playing the poor support on her side. Well, I guess Sonic's is even more poor, but right on cue, Cobra Boys following a script. Like, we got 2 towers, let's pressure this third one. They dump a lot of damage onto Sonics, but the Vacuum Wave might buy him enough time to cold embrace himself, and he does. Rocket going out on Papa, but Cask being thrown out by the Witch Doctor. Loose Pus re-engages, tosses out Rocket Barrage as well as a call down. They're able to drop Disruptor, take the tier 1 tower, and force the remaining players of Bad Decisions back into their base. But before they make it there, Ember Spirit joins the fight from the woods, drops the Witch Doctor, and with all 5 players here sitting in good health, Loose Pus is going to toss out a barrel roll and barrel roll his way into the tier 2 tower with his allies. A little bit of rotation coming out from Cobra Boys as they try to defend their tier 1 tower. Mint, seeing what's going on in the bottom lane, not having a scroll of teleport for himself, decides to cut the wave, and between Sonics and Robin Socks, they're going to chase him down. The quill stacks are starting to build up, hitting 4 or 5, so the damage is starting to hurt, but they'll exchange a little bit of nuisance damage for a kill against a Bristleback any day of the week. Meanwhile, the bottom siege continues, even with 2 of their players backing to defend, and it looks like Casey and Wayne's World here looking to see if they can catch someone out for being a little bit too aggressive, but they're going to be spotted out by these Radiant Observer wards, so I don't suspect they'll get too aggressive. They do smoke up and circle behind, and with a Cask and a leap from Papa, they are going to explode the Lina. Casey leaps in with a Remnant. He's trying to go on Disruptor, but with the silence there, he's not able to do much more than jump into the fight, committing the Death Ward from the Witch Doctor. They'll be able to drop him, and that's going to be a fairly significant gold swing for them. Losing the Phantom Lancer, but killing the valuable Ember Spirit, and I believe that was his first death of the match. Yep, sitting at 3-0-1 before that. He will give up his first death and a fair chunk of change to the Bad Decisions squad. One thing I'd like to see from Casey as he teleports in to refarm these lanes is popping Flame Guard as soon as he teleports in. Gives him pretty much a free flame guard, because whenever you teleport to a tower, you have, I think it's 2 seconds of the fountain's effect on you. So you can flame guard, get the regen, and even hit a bottle once if you want, and regen back to full mana. It's essentially a free spell anytime you teleport to a tower. And if it's low cooldown, it's worth it.
Murder spree.
Caught the tail end of that fight here, as my cursor got stuck on Twitch chat, unfortunately. But they are able to catch the Disruptor trying to rotate behind the Cobra Boys squad and make him pay for it. Casey throwing out some sleight of fist with Loose Pup throwing flak cannon damage around as well. And this is where the AoE damage of the squad is starting to hurt. Papa rotating in behind the team, doing as much harass damage as he can. They drop a sentry ward down next to the tower, but it's not going to be able to spot out a Slark and Shadow Dance, and it's underneath the vision of the tower, so it drops immediately. But even though they aren't able to get a kill, and they are distracted there a little bit by the Slark, they're going to regroup, refocus, drop the tier 2 tower. And I don't suspect they'll push high ground here. They'll probably fall back, see if they can repeat what they did in game 1, where they take those outer towers, regroup into another lane, and push another tier 2 tower. And just like last game, you have kind of the split push mechanics, where before it was Loose Puss playing the Shadow Fiend, always pushing a lane pretty much by himself, and the remaining 4 players from Cobra Boys grouping up and pushing a second lane together. So you have all the Cobra Boys kind of grouped up here, smoke coming out from Bad Decisions, and they do run into Loose Puss and the Wayne's World. An excellent cask coming off, hitting and bouncing between Wayne's World and Loose Puss. It's going back and forth, and they're going to find both of those kills, but in the meantime, Robin Sock circles behind them and is causing a little bit of disruption himself as he's vacuuming and throwing down a wall. And so at the end of the day, it's going to be a 2-for-2 trade, but that's 2 supports for a core and a support, and at this point, even trade is going to highly favor Bad Decisions, and it shows on the charts with a little bit of a recovery in the golden XP charts, with 1,700 gold more or less going the way of Bad Decisions. A lot of that going into the hands of 2 of their biggest cores, the Bristleback and the Phantom Lancer, with gold being lost on the Gyrocopter. So all in all, definitely a win for Bad Decisions. And on top of that, it deters Cobra Boys from pushing this tier 2 tower. So what would have definitely been a lost tier 2 tower turns into a 2-for-2 exchange for Bad Decisions. But as we were watching that fight, that tier 2 tower in the top lane did fall. So the split push mechanics working well for them on the dire side of the map here, and they'll re-engage this tier 2 tower in the bottom lane, having lost that previous fight. Looks like almost everybody's ultimates are ready to go. You got 9 seconds left here on the Darkseer wall, as he had just expended that. And we'll be looking for a big team clash here. Looks like a lot of the Radiant players are not in position to do much about this. You don't have a teleport on the Slark. You have some stuff for the 2 supports here, but right now it's just Bristleback and Phantom Lancer trying to pose whatever threat they can. But against 5, they're not going to be able to. Now the supports rotate down, and Slark's joining them from the flanks. So Slark's sitting here in the jungle. The tower's continuing to take damage, and the Glyph is on cooldown, but a great ult from Disruptor catches 2 to 3 heroes out. Cask joins it as well, but just like that, they turn the fight. They drop a call down on the entirety of the Bad Decisions team as they grouped up into that Disruptor ult to try to take advantage of the kinetic field that had trapped several dire heroes inside of it, and by clumping together as much as they did to pursue those kills, Cobra Boys just make them pay. Almost all of their spells are oriented into that, hey, group up, fight into a condensed area. So even if they do get vacuumed together and trapped inside of a kinetic field like that, as long as they have one or two out, they're always going to be able to just AoE the crap out of bad decisions. Between Flat Cannon, Rocket Barrage, Vacuum, Ion Shell, Sleight of Fist, Flame Guard, Call Down, Light Strike Array, Dragon Slave, Winter's Curse. The list goes on and on right now in terms of the team fight potential. So, right now as they push into the high ground, it looks like Casey might be dropped here with the Death Ward, and they do catch him for sticking around a little bit too long. He was tethered up with the leap from Slark, so he wasn't able to escape. He didn't have a remnant to jump back to, so they lose the tier 2 tower, they lose the tier 3 tower, they lose a massive team fight, but they are able to defend the wreck, so they'll live to fight another day. HCC retreats, regroups, and I think right now would be a great time for them to actually dip into Roshan. It looks like Papa is suspecting the same thing, so he's going to go scout it out himself. Had they been in there, that would have been a 1 versus 3, 1 versus 4 situation, and I don't know if he'd be able to survive a turn there, but they're not, so he knows they've fallen back likely to their jungle. They have a little bit of vision here from this area, so they saw him retreating into this general area, especially the Lina, but weren't quite sure where they got off to. The Dire team, on the other hand, placed this observer ward as they pushed into the tier 2 tower, and neither team have many observer wards down on the map right now. Both of them just have the one, so vision is limited. And you have Lina buying up some vision items for the Dire team. Just the one more. I'm trying to figure out where all these observer wards are situated. Okay, there's a couple on Winter there. There's a couple on Disruptor. And a couple smoke sitting on Witch Doctor. So, now with a bit of a break in the fighting, I suspect you'll see a bit of these vision wards coming out. Right now, both teams should be casting vision onto the...
Heads up!
One of the casters alerting me to the fact that Winter has smoke, and he does. He pops it. They draw a lasso. Is that what that is? Around the radiant side of the map, they make their way in. But Bad Decisions are playing really defensively right now. They're not quite sure where they are. They do break the smoke. Loose Pus leading the charge. Dirty retreats back to the safety of his base, and it looks like there's not going to be much more initiation from Cobra Boys. They're going to regroup here. Kip pushing out a little bit, trying to get a little bit of breathing room for their bottom lane, as well as some farm and experience for himself. But Cobra Boys regroup after the failed smoke attempt, and they're going to have all 5 players here rotating into this bottom lane with Loose Pus and KC in the front lines, followed closely by Sonics and Wayne's World in the wings. They don't want to group up too much because they do kind of want to avoid that Disruptor initiation, who has been harassing the entirety of the Cobra Boys team quite a bit. But the Sleight of Fist is just doing an insane amount of damage to Disruptor currently. It drops him to about 1/3 health with just one Sleight of Fist. That's compliments of the Battle Fury plus crit coming out on the Ember Spirit. Spells being continuously spammed out by Winter, Ion Shell sitting on every creep wave. Winter's Curse being dropped on Papa. Robin Sox gets a 5-hero vacuum. Drops the wall as well, and the call down catches out multiple heroes. So it's going to be a 3-for-1 exchange with Lina going down on the way of Cobra Boys, Disruptor, Witch Doctor, and Phantom Lancer dropping on the Radiant side. The two supports buy back, and they're looking to catch out anybody they can here in defense of their last racks in the bottom lane. They throw a cask. Papa's fighting in there under Shadow Dance, doing what damage he can, but Loose Pus turns his attention, team fights for a little bit, and then notices the last racks in the bottom lane sitting low HP, pops it a couple times, drops it, and retreats with the rest of his allies. So they do lose Alina in that fight, but they're able to take 2 racks, 3 heroes, and force out 2 buybacks. So Cobra Boys taking the net worth lead, the experience lead, and dropping it even further into their favor. The net worth chart says it all. The 3 cores on the side of Cobra Boys are all sitting above the 3 cores on the Radiant side for bad decisions. Now they're going to swing over to Roche, drop him extremely quickly, and gain even more net worth, even more experience, and most importantly, an Aegis of the Immortal on KC. So now KC can play as aggressive as he wants and be fine. He doesn't need to use any of those static remnants for defensive purposes. He can just get all up in their grill. They see Derby trying to farm here, and they're chasing him out as aggressively as they can. They're able to cast the missile on him, so that'll chase for a while, but Doppelganger being used to kind of juke through the woods, and it's a pretty strong evasion so far, as he is able to evade the entirety of the Cobra Boys team. And as he does so, they've kind of split the fight all over the place. They have Slark engaging, they have Phantom Lancer engaging Slark's targets, but right now the Cobra Boys are just too out-farmed. And Loose Pus is able to pick off a couple kills as they dance around the middle lane there. They push in, break the tier 3 tower, and bad decisions called GG for the second game, and that is going to be a 2-0 result going in favor of Here Comes the Cobra, also known as Cobra Boys. And it looked like both times Cobra Boys implemented the same game plan. They pushed towers early, they won the laning phase. Casey had a pretty strong presence in both games. In Game 2 on the Ember Spirit, I think he won that laning phase more due to the rotations from his supports, Wayne's World and Sonics, than he did just straight outright outplaying the Slark. But the supports were there, and the Lino Winter Wyvern plus Ember Spirit combination in the middle lane beat out to the Slark plus Witch Doctor combination. And it seemed like every time Witch Doctor rotated to that middle lane to try to help out Slark, Broden and Papa were met with a near kill on KC, but Lina and Winter Wyvern were always there to save his life and actually turn the fight in favor of the Ember Spirit. So, well played to the supports on Cobra Boys for winning that middle lane matchup between the Ember Spirit and Slark. Obviously, Loose Pus playing the hard carry in both teams, or both games here, was able to significantly out-farm the opposing hard carry. And when you give Gyrocopter and Shadow Fiend as much farm as he received in these 2 games, he's able to make enemies pay for that oversight, and that's what he did. He got big on Gyrocopter, he went with the Sanjin Yash BKB build, so even when the Phantom Lancer and Slark were able to catch him out, they didn't have the items. They had a Diffusal and some Yashas, a little bit of lifesteal, but not nearly enough damage to eat through the health, the BKB, the Sanjin Yash, and the armor from Ring of Aquila to really ever threaten the Gyrocopter. And after the one death that he suffered in the safe lane in the top lane, Gyrocopter never seemed to be alone after that. Lina rotated up, protected his back from there on, and then Gyrocopter just collapsed with the rest of his team to push those tier 1 towers. They left one person, in this case the Ember Spirit, who was able to kind of solo Rat Dota, push an offlane by himself with the safety of his Fire Remnants to escape if he needed to. And in game 1, it was the Shadow Fiend with the Shadow Blade, able to split push and retreat under invisibility if he ever ran into a resistance. So, well played to both teams. Congratulations to Here Comes the Cobra, going 2-0 in this matchup, and continuing their winning streak so far here in the AD2L League. That's week 4. It looks like week 5, if the schedule is correct and I'm reading it right, which is very debatable. I don't know if I'm reading it correctly. Cobra Boys are going to be playing up against Team Gemini in week 5, and that'll be the second matchup between the two teams, with the first matchup going 1-1 in no team's favor. So it was just kind of a draw in the previous best of 2. So congratulations again to both teams, and best of luck in your future matches. This is Darmin. Please feel free to subscribe, like, share, subscribe and share, all of those good things, to my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/DarminCast, and my Twitter channel, twitter.com/DarminCast. So thanks for joining me, and stay tuned through the next coming days for the Week 5 matchups in the AD2L Season 8 League. Thanks, and happy Dotaing. I will resume the stream in a few minutes here for, I don't know, maybe some casual games. Not sure yet, but I'll see you in a few.